I'm Jim Walker, and I work for the Archaeological Conservancy. And I just came today to update you on what we've been doing over the last year. And boy, we've been busy, which is always good. I'm going to begin in Utah, since we are in Utah, and actually most of our activities over the last year have been centered in Utah. First, I'd like to talk about the Corps of Engineers project that we've been working on in Utah. You know, a Corps of Engineers permit holder disturbed an archaeological site in 2008 during a construction project. And there was mitigation that was ordered, including screening a lot of the soil that had been disturbed. A fine was imposed, but the Corps did something that I had never seen them do before. And that is, they said, well, instead of putting this fine in the treasury, as we always do, what if we did something different with it? What if we gave it to the Archaeological Conservancy to go out and buy a Utah site that is currently unprotected and threatened? And so we said, sure. Sounds like a good idea to us. And so we began working with Utah archaeologists, the Corps of Engineers, and the parties involved in the violation. And we used a portion of the penalty funds to acquire one of the largest intact portions of Paragon Mounds. And this is just north of what was once one of the largest Fremont sites in Utah. And so we're just above Cedar City in Utah. And you know, in the late 1800s, there were over 400 mounds reported at Paragon, which is absolutely incredible. And of course, the site has been impacted by the town itself and agricultural activities that have taken place. We wound up buying a 12-acre tract containing 28 mounds, and they had never been plowed. And so this is really the largest piece of that site that we were able to find. This land had been gifted to the Branch Agricultural College, which is now Southern Utah University, in the late 1950s. And it was gifted to them for agricultural experimentation purposes. But it was never used by the college for that. And so the college was shocked that they owned it, as a matter of fact. So we used a portion of some of the core money, the fine money, to acquire the site from the university. And it's interesting because the university then chose to use the proceeds of the sale to establish an endowment for Native American students, as well as support for SUU's archaeological repository. And so this is like, talk about a feel-good story, I'll tell you. It's really worked out well. The balance of the penalty funds we used to complete the acquisition of Carhart Pueblo. And Carhart is in San Juan County. As a matter of fact, if you draw a line between the conference site and Dove Creek and go about 30 miles along on that line, it's just before you get to the Colorado border. Carhart is really an amazing site. We bought 67 acres. It contains the Chaco Great House, Great Kiva. There are road fragments, and there are also a number of associated ring block structures and features. And Carhart is thought to be the northernmost Chaco outlier. Really, the only impacts to the Pueblo, there was one kiva, which was a radial beam kiva, that was within the Great House. It was excavated by the former owners, unfortunately. There were also 2 rooms in the Great House, small rooms that were cleaned out probably in the 30s. And so we actually, with the help of a grant from the National Trust for Historic Preservation, we did a backfilling project on Carhart. And so that radial beam kiva is now covered back up. And we're planning on doing a National Register nomination this fall for Carhart. So the Utah Corps project has really turned out well. I'm aware of 2 other instances where the Corps has done the same thing. One is in the coastal Bend area of Texas, and we are now looking for coastal archaic sites in Texas The other one is on the East Coast. And so hopefully this will be a trend where fines will be given to the Conservancy and we can go out and buy sites with them. Next in Utah is Jackson Flat Reservoir. We've signed the final documents to establish 2 preserves within the Jackson Flat Reservoir project near Canal. And this project contained a surprisingly high density of archaic pithouse villages, some dating to about 5,000 years ago. Heidi Roberts and HRA Inc., working with Kenny Winch, have excavated more than 60 pit houses and storage structures within the reservoir pool area. And the 2 preserves that we've acquired, which are going to be gifts from the Kane County Water Conservancy District, are actually, we believe they are, based on what we know about them, they're probably virgin branch Anasazi habitations. And they're going to be outside the maximum pool area, but in the area that's going to be used for recreation. So we'll fence them, we'll keep people out of them, put some signage on them to explain what's behind the fence. And again, I think this has turned out really well because these are very important archaeological preserves. About 9 miles away from here, due east, we acquired a small pueblo. This is the Paul Bauman Pueblo, and it's in the foothills of the Paragon Mountains. We believe that it's probably a high-altitude farmstead, probably dates to around 700 to 1100 AD, based on the surface ceramics. The final site in Utah is the one that Chaz is going to talk about after I get through. This is the Adelbert Smith Family Archaeological Preserve near Pueblo. And so we'll learn about that later. In Colorado, we worked with the Pitkin County open space people to preserve a really unique archaeological site that was located in an elevation of about 7,800 feet near Aspen. And lithic types present on the surface suggest that it was probably Middle Archaic to late prehistoric. We don't know much about the subsurface, but based on surface attributes, this was an area that was utilized for a very long period of time. The Conservancy has become a co-holder of an easement with Pitkin County open space to preserve this site. And it's interesting because Pitkin County gave the owner 2 transferable development rights, or TDRs, in exchange for the easement. And the TDRs can be sold, transferred to developers, and it would allow holders of these TDRs to build in Aspen's restricted urban growth boundary, or to build a house larger than, I think the limit is something like 5,000 square feet. But whatever it takes, you know. We've also completed a management plan and fencing at the 42-acre Chavano Valley Rock Art Preserve in Montrose. And this is a really unique collection of Ute rock art panels. We acquired this with the assistance of a Colorado Historical Fund grant. We're working with the Ute Indian Museum in Montrose and local volunteers to actually run public tours through this particular facility. In New Mexico, we have completed mapping and backfilling of the Elk Ridge Membres site. This is a classic phase Membres cobble wall pueblo constructed around the central plaza located in the northern portion of the Membres Valley. The project used local volunteers. We put down 400 yards, not square yards, 400 linear yards of geotextile material, covered it up by 640 cubic yards of fill. This site had been attacked by power equipment just before the New Mexico burial law came into being. And finally, in Montana, we have exercised our option to buy Fort Parker near Livingston. This was the first Crow agency. Dates on it are 1868 to 1875. It was established under the terms of the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868. This was a facility that was designed to assist the Crow that had recently been relocated to this particular area. The original wooden buildings constructed in 1869 were destroyed by fire, 1872, and they immediately rebuilt with a set of adobe buildings. And finally, in 1875, the agency was relocated to another part of Montana. And so this is a very important element of Montana's prehistory. So we need leads. We need more good archaeological sites that would be great candidates for permanent preservation on private land. And so if you see Chaz and I around the conference, and you know of a great archaeological site that you think we ought to buy, let us know, because that's how the whole thing works. And so I want to end by saying, I realize that many of you are members of the Archaeological Conservancy. Some of you are life members of the Conservancy. And I just want to thank you, because without your support, we would not be able to function.